welcome back to my channel, guys. Today is another Buffy video. I know I haven't done one in a minute because I've been doing a lot of trailer reviews, so if you haven't watched them, you can watch them now. I'm still going to be doing a lot more newer content, like newer films, newer TV shows and things like that. However, I haven't forgotten about my Buffy videos because these are one of my favourite videos to do because it's my favourite show of all time and I can always do a Buffy video. So don't worry if you haven't seen one on my channel recently, I will be doing more Buffy videos for you guys. So today I will be looking at season 1 episode 4 of Buffy. It'll be a review breakdown as I do all my other videos. This one is called Teacher's Pet. So this one was a fun rewatch that I did because I haven't seen this one in a while, so this one was fun to watch again. But yeah, it's got a lot in this episode and I know you guys are gonna love it. But before we get into it, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. It'll just really help my channel out and it means that you guys are enjoying my videos and we're building this little community, which is always fun. And also make sure you hit the like button if you do enjoy this video. So grab your snacks, grab your tea, grab your coffee, and when we come back we will be reviewing Buffy episode 4. So with this episode we begin with Xander, who's practically just daydreaming about, you know, masculinity, being the hero, you know, wanting to save Buffy, as he does most of the time because he wants to be Buffy's hero even though she's saving him most of the time. Sorry, my dog's barking in the back. Xander basically wants to save the damsel in distress. He wants to be that type of guy that saves Buffy, but as we know, Buffy is far from the damsel in distress. I think it's supposed to be more of a amusing, comedic kind of theme to this episode where we know that the fantasy that Xander has is far from the reality of their friendship. It's just completely different because she's saving him most of the time, but a guy can dream, right? But then his fantasy is basically shattered when Buffy tells him that he's drooling, which is kind of really embarrassing for Xander, but it's kind of their dynamic anyway. He does something embarrassing around Buffy and, you know, it's kind of this funny little moment that he's trying to be this hero, but then he ends up drooling in front of Buffy. And then we cut to the Bronze, where Blaine, just don't like this character, where Blaine is basically bragging about how many times he's scored, how many, you know, girls he's managed to hook up with, you know, etc. as guys do. Not all guys, sorry, not all guys, as some guys do, especially in high school. But Xander's there as well and he's basically just listening and playing along, stick up for any of these girls. He doesn't sort of try to tell Blaine that he should stop basically degrading women like this. Instead he joins in because he wants to be this masculine guy, which is kind of the theme throughout this whole episode. But in a classic Xander move, he tries to hide his insecurities with humour and he basically says that Buffy and Willow are his dates, even though obviously they're not, they're all friends. But Willow does like him, but obviously they're not actually dating, so that's not really the point. I mean, don't get me wrong, Xander is not Blaine. He's a much nicer guy. He is a kind-hearted, sweet guy. But I think when he's around other people, he's easily influenced, he wants to fit in, and he obviously wants to be that masculine, tough guy, for Buffy mostly, but obviously we know he's not really that type of guy, so it just comes off as awkward when he's trying to be something he's not. And then we see Angel turn up and he starts talking to Buffy, but Xander basically just gets jealous because Angel is practically the guy that Xander wants to be. He wants to be that tough guy, look tough, have that, you know, built look. So he's jealous obviously every time Angel is there, and especially when Buffy and Angel start forming more of a relationship, Xander doesn't like it, and as I quote, he said, "A very attractive man," and then he wonders, how come that never came up? And I think the writers probably intended that to show how insecure Xander is about, obviously, his looks and how much of a tough guy he looks to be, because he, I think, thinks that women or girls want that Angel kind of guy, that, you know, tough exterior, very mysterious, that kind of guy, which obviously Xander is the opposite of. So his insecurities are really starting to show, and they're playing on his insecurities, which will later be the plot point of this whole entire series. And then we cut to school, where we see there is a new teacher who is walking towards the Scooby Gang, slow walking, because this wouldn't be the 90s without a good slow walk. And they're all like, "Hi, Miss French." And then there's this tribal music that's accompanied by her walking. And then obviously we can start to see that the guys that are in her presence are basically attracted to her. And it's not just like one guy will be attracted to her. We start to see that multiple guys are attracted to her. But one thing that's weird is none of the women feel she's attractive, or they don't really say it. So this is kind of starting to open up what the episode is about, that what's going on, like why are all these men attracted to her? I mean, very pretty lady, but why are all these men attracted to her? And they start showing it in a really weird way, and don't know what's going on with Xander down there. But yeah, we know that he's definitely attracted to her. And then basically Xander's just struggling for words, as he always does. He mumbles and whatever. And then Blaine basically cuts in, because he's this masculine, confident guy that we know from the Bronze. So he basically cuts in, and yeah, that's basically that scene. And then we cut to biology class, where now we get to see Miss French a little bit more. And she's basically explaining. I knew that would happen. I knew in every video I have to just mess up on one word, but I always keep it in. Okay, so she's basically explaining on the mantis. So that's her sort of speciality. She's talking about the mantis and what type of insect it is and things like that, and everyone's just basically listening, fascinated. She basically then goes on to say that the females are more aggressive than the males, and even though we will learn that she is basically the villain of this episode, it's nice to see that it's been swapped. Basically, it's not the dominant male and submissive female roles, it's actually the other way around, because she will be the dominant female in this, much like the mantis, and you'll learn more as the episode goes on. And then we cut to the cafeteria, where basically Xander and Blaine are just being these annoying guys again, you know, objectifying women. And then basically what I like is Buffy puts Xander in place, and he bursts his bubble with all the toxic masculinity that he's doing. But we could have done without the comment on whether Mrs. French had surgical enhancements or not. But I guess that was supposed to be a little funny joke that was in there. And obviously, as we know, she's a teacher, so she's older, so she's more of this womanly figure that they're gazing upon, and she's this new person, so obviously they're going to be objectifying her in their weird teenage brains. And then Xander decides to be brave and basically go up and talk to Mrs. French, where she basically invites him to her house to study or tutoring or whatever. And Xander thinks that he's basically scored. He's like, she's inviting me over. Obviously not knowing why she's inviting him over, but she is, and she's being very, like, I wouldn't say flirtatious, but in a way, yes, she's being flirtatious, and she basically easily persuades Xander to go to her house. Buffy, of course, has worked out Mrs. French's secrets, so she's actually figured it out quite early on in the episode, which is good. So she's figured it out, and she's trying to basically warn Xander, like, no, don't go to her house, stay away from her. she's evil, she's a villain, etc. And Xander's basically having none of it, but I think it's because he's been sort of brainwashed by her to not accept what anyone else says, and to obviously listen to her, kind of like she's the queen and she's got all these little guy servants who are listening to everything she says, so no matter what someone else says, even Buffy, the one that he likes, doesn't matter, because he's going to do it and he's going to go to see Miss French. But as we can see, he thinks basically that Buffy is jealous, because in Xander's weird fantasy, Buffy loves him and she has a crush on him. So he thinks that she's actually jealous that he is going to Miss French's, when in actual fact it's the complete opposite. Buffy's just trying to look out for him as a friend, so he doesn't get into trouble, as he will, but he doesn't believe it. But obviously we know that it's necessary for the plot for him to not listen to Buffy and actually go, because that sets us up for the big reveal of who Miss French really is. Now we cut to Miss French's house, which is also the lair of the mantis, as we will soon find out, or we already know, but we'll find out what she really looks like. And Xander's basically complimenting Mrs. French because he's so in love with her, even though he's just met her and she's a teacher and she's basically brainwashed him. He basically also calls shawarma a big meat hive. Xander and his humour. He basically uses humour, as we know, for the most part, as a way to deflect from him being nervous and awkward and not letting people really get to know him or see the real Xander. But then he basically confesses and is like, I'm a virgin. I don't know why he would confess that, like, you know, he's at his teacher's house. Surely that's information she doesn't need to know. But as we know, Miss French isn't an actual teacher. But as we know, it's too late for him to turn back. He's basically been seduced by Miss French, and now she's basically going to do whatever she wants to do to him. And then we see in the basement that Blaine is there, so he's been persuaded to go there by Miss French as well, and he's basically lost his cool guy facade that he puts on, and he's basically just like everyone else. He's basically like Xander, and we know that basically everything he says or the way he acts is just a cover-up, so people don't actually know that he is not this toxic, masculine, you know, popular guy that's, you know, hooked up with so many girls, because that's not who he actually is, and he just puts it on as a performance. And then we cut to Giles, Mr. Information, who basically reveals that Miss French is the virgin thief. Yeah, I can't remember what they called it, but it's a virgin thief. So she preys on virgins, so now we know that Blaine is a virgin as well, and that's why she's basically bringing all these guys to her house and keeping them there. It's basically like playing on the idea that the seductive woman can make men do whatever they want and lose their judgment. So as Miss French did, she basically made them all attracted to her, and she made them all come to her house, and now she's going to do whatever she wants to them because she's this sexy seductive woman, which is not really reality, but I guess is kind of playing on that trope of the seductive strong female character. But I like the fact that the villain is female, so then we have Buffy, obviously female, who is the hero, going up against another female, and they're both obviously women with powers and strength, and they're both strong characters in their own way. But basically it's funny because Buffy just gets out the bug spray. It's pretty funny the way they do it, but Buffy always seems to use things that are comical but can work, you know. Obviously if you have a bug there in front of you, you're going to use bug spray. And what is Miss French? A big bug. So of course she's going to use bug spray to defeat Miss French. So not very conventional way and not Buffy's typical way, but she uses things that actually work. And Willow basically has this little heart-to-heart conversation with Xander and basically says to him, you know, you're doing the right thing, saying a virgin basically in high school and not just rushing to, you know, have sex with anyone, and he shouldn't really be ashamed of it because it is nothing to be ashamed of. And as we know, Blaine was a virgin, but he would try and pretend that he's not. But because he was a virgin, he would, you know, exaggerate how many women he's hooked up with and things, which probably guys don't do if they're not virgins. But because he was, I think he was trying to just deflect from the fact that he is, so nobody would find out. But I appreciate that Willow doesn't basically shame Xander for being a virgin, which obviously is, you know, a great way of sort of showing their friendship. But as we know, for Xander it's different because he's not a virgin by choice. I think he really wants to, you know, be with someone and you know, just date and do all that, but it's not really a conscious choice for Xander. But either way, it's not something that his friends care about, or anyone would really care about if he was a virgin. It's just, I think, in Xander's head. And then Xander basically admits to his friends that he was an idiot, which, Xander, we can all agree on that. It's not the first time. It's not the first time, and it won't be the only time where you get yourself in trouble and you need your friends to save you. Basically admitting he shouldn't have gone because he almost got eaten, and he almost would have got his friends eaten as well. But at least he apologized. At least he owned up to the fact that he was an idiot and that he shouldn't have gone, and that's a big improvement for Xander, the fact that he's owning up to things and he's taking responsibility, and that shows the growth of his character, and we'll continuously see him grow, and not only take responsibility for his actions, but also not put himself in these kind of situations like he has now. I mean, he's learned the error of his ways, but I don't think he's completely gonna stop, you know, fantasizing about this toxic masculinity kind of trope that he just wants. I don't know why, but I think Angel plays a big part of the fact that Xander does these stupid things to maybe impress Buffy, or he wants to try and be Angel where he's not going to be, because Angel is Angel and he's a vampire and he is a lot older than Xander, so Xander has a lot of growing up to do basically. Even though Xander is basically the main focus of this episode, it really does revolve more around him. You know, Buffy still plays a pivotal role in it, of course. It is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and so basically Mr. Gregory, the teacher, basically shows her that he believes in her and offers her encouragement because she hasn't done her homework. So that's really a nice moment to see that she's actually, although she hasn't done her homework, she's, you know, doing well, and she has the support of her teachers, where I don't think she had in her previous school. And I love the fact that in this episode as well, Buffy gets to tell Giles what to do a little bit and correct him in some things, which we don't get to see often, but when we do, is pretty funny. The fact that Buffy's the one telling her watcher what to do and how to do things right, which is a very, very pivotal moment in this episode and also the rest of the series, where Buffy starts to come into her own and can think for herself and do things without having to always go by Giles. We also obviously see that Angel's made a couple appearances in this episode as well. He gives Buffy his leather jacket because he's so cool, which is like a typical trope of the man giving the woman the jacket. But this is the 90s, what do you expect? And I guess it's kind of like a sweet moment because it's kind of showing that they're starting to build this relationship with each other. And then at the end of the episode, Angel appears again and basically says that the jacket looks better on her. Of course, Mr. Cool Guy trying to win Buffy over and compliment her. But yeah, it does look better on her. And we'll see her wearing the jacket in later episodes as well. I read a theory somewhere where it basically discussed Buffy's attractiveness towards Angel, and where she's attracted to Angel but isn't sure how to express it. Obviously she's still young, and you know, Angel's very mysterious, so she doesn't know how to express her attractiveness towards him, because we know that obviously sex, especially for teenagers, especially for your first time, is very scary, and it's this big thing, and it almost feels like a lead up to it, like you have to face this big thing and get it over and done with, and face, for some people, the fears of having sex for the first time, which could be represented in a big way with the mantis being this big, scary, preying kind of creature. And obviously, in a weird way, is a metaphor for sex for teenagers, and how much of a big, scary thing it is, just like the mantis. And as we have discussed in my first ever Buffy video, where I just discussed the importance of Buffy, I talk a little bit about how each episode, each season reflects and represents real issues, real teenage issues, and real fears that we go through and what teenagers go through, and all that is reflected in the monsters that we see in Buffy, and I think the mantis really reflects sex, and the fear of sort of losing your virginity and facing up to having sex for the first time. So yeah, that is the end of my video. Let me know if you think the same and what you think the mantis represents in Buffy. If you have stayed this long, it means you have enjoyed the video, which I am pleased about. And please make sure you subscribe, because you clearly stayed this long, so why wouldn't you subscribe? And why wouldn't you hit the like button? But yeah, I'll be doing more Buffy videos as I mentioned, so stay tuned for that. More films, more TV shows, more trailer reviews. There's a lot coming out in the next couple months that I'll love to review, including Halloween Kills being a main one. We've got the Matrix film, we've got Scream next year, so a lot is coming out that I'm excited to review. Yeah, that is it for this video, and as always, stay safe, take care, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Mwah!